What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing UFC 300 and the main event that is yet to be announced. We are officially 2 months off of UFC 300, the biggest card of all time, and we still don't have a main event. That's an issue, obviously. So in this video, I'm going to be presenting you guys with 6 potential main events for UFC 300, and then we're going to have 1 extra, so 7 in total, and that 1 extra is going to be an extremely long shot. That will never happen, but why not include it? And we're going to start from the most likely, in my opinion, to the least likely, okay? First up, we have Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight title. Yes, I think this is the most likely outcome for the UFC 300 headliner. I think this is going to be the UFC 300 headliner, and it's a great fight. I mean, you have Dricus du Plessis, who just won the belt off Sean Strickland. Very close fight. Lots of controversy. I personally had Dricus winning 3-2, from South Africa. And then we have Israel Adesanya, the former dominant champion. And there's a storyline there. I don't really need to explain it to you guys. You guys know it. I mean, that's an incredible fight. I'd probably lean to Israel Adesanya, but that's a fight where I feel like Dricus du Plessis can just win. He's very unorthodox, and I feel like that could give Adesanya a lot of trouble. And we saw Adesanya, struggle against Strickland with his weird, style of boxing. So I feel like Dricus could give Izzy problems, especially if he starts to mix in those takedowns. If he starts to mix in those takedowns, get Adesanya really tired, I feel like he could even find a finish in this fight, maybe in the 4th and 5th round, because we know he could go 5 hard rounds. He showed that against Sean Strickland. So I think that's a very intriguing fight. I think that's what the UFC is going to do. I don't think it's their first option, as a lot of reports have said. I'll get onto that number 1 option in a little bit. But I feel like this fight just has to happen eventually. If it's not at 300, 301, 302, 303, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I think the UFC want Adesanya to fight for the middleweight title right now. So if their first option doesn't happen, I think that's the fight that's going to happen. I think it's going to headline UFC 300, as I said. Next up, the second fight that I think is most likely is Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight title. And I know everybody's going to be hating on this fight. Everybody. I don't hate it as much as everybody says. I think it's a great fight, actually. It's the 2 best welterweights on planet Earth, and that's what I come to watch mixed martial arts for. Yes, I agree with the community. Yeah, it would be kind of a disappointing 300 main event. I would love, personally, if they made Edwards versus Muhammad as the co-main event, Adesanya du Plessis as the main event. I think that would be absolutely phenomenal. But I think Edwards versus Muhammad, I feel like it's the UFC's last option. If they need something, they'll throw that at the main event. I don't think they want that to happen, but if they absolutely need to, I think that's what they'll go with. It's an intriguing stylistic matchup, and I think people are kind of underestimating Belal Muhammad in this fight. Of course, Leon Edwards is becoming a dominant champion. He beat Kamaru Usman twice. He beat Colby Covington, the washed dead body of Colby Covington. He destroyed Colby Covington. But I feel like a lot of people are doubting Belal Muhammad, and I think Belal Muhammad could get it done, because I think this fight's going to happen eventually. Just like Adesanya and du Plessis, this fight's got to happen eventually. And I feel like Belal could give Leon trouble, but I feel like Leon is the best welterweight on the planet, and I feel like his ability to do everything, his ability to stuff the takedowns, go 5 hard rounds, he's a sniper on the feet, leg kicks are really solid. I feel like he would beat Belal Muhammad. That's an intriguing fight, man. That's an intriguing fight, and I'm down to see it as maybe the co-main event to UFC 300, not the main event, but the co-main event. All right. Next up, third fight, we have Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. This is interesting. I don't think this will happen. Now, all these fights from here on out, I don't think are going to happen. I think it's going to be either du Plessis versus Adesanya or Edwards versus Muhammad. But this is an interesting fight. We saw Ariel Helwani report that Dricus versus Khamzat is a potential option, But the roadblock in that fight is Khamzat can't really fight in the United States. He needs to get a work visa, which is going to be trouble. And we heard rumblings about Edwards versus Khamzat, which I will get onto. But I feel like that fight's just not going to happen. I don't see Khamzat Chimaev weight cutting or cutting to 170 pounds, and I don't see the UFC putting the biggest card of all time in the hands of Khamzat to make 170 pounds. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense at all. So I feel like if they wanted to give him a title shot really bad, it would be at 185 pounds against Dricus du Plessis. And I feel like Dricus could give Khamzat a lot of problems, because would Khamzat be able to finish Dricus early? I'm not too sure. I feel like Dricus would get his jab going. He could go 5 hard rounds, which Khamzat simply cannot right now. We don't think he can. His cardio isn't great. So I feel like Dricus would get that jab going. I feel like he'd mix in maybe the takedowns even. I feel like Dricus would be open to bringing the fight to the ground in the later rounds, get Khamzat really tired, and I think he probably would finish Khamzat Chimaev. And it sounds crazy because I think Khamzat is so much more skilled than a guy like Dricus du Plessis, but styles make fights, man, and that's a very intriguing fight, which I think could happen in the future, and I'd be down for it. It's an amazing fight, but I just don't see it headlining UFC 300. Next up, this is the report that Ariel Helwani came out with, and it was the UFC's #1 option. That is Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev for the welterweight title. Now this fight is incredible, to be completely honest, and you guys might think I'm crazy or whatever. This is one of the best stylistic matchups I have ever seen in the UFC, and I'd love this fight to happen. As I said earlier, though, I don't think the UFC is going to put the biggest card of all time in the hands of Khamzat Chimaev to make 170 pounds. I don't think it's going to happen. But man, that would be an incredible fight. Leon Edwards, does he go to a decision with Khamzat? Does he finish him in the later rounds? Because we know he has the cardio advantage. Does Khamzat get Leon to the ground and finish him early? That's an incredible fight. They were supposed to fight multiple times. It's never happened. And I think it's bound to happen eventually, right? It's bound to, but I feel like the weight issues could be a factor in that fight not taking place. But man, I'd love to see it. As I said, stylistic matchup wise, I think that's one of the best you could get in the UFC right now. But I don't see it happening. It could be the UFC's first option, as Ariel Helwani reported. That doesn't matter, man. It seems like they really want to give Khamzat a title shot. But the man's not making 170 pounds, guys. Let's be completely real. He's not making 170 pounds. He's already ruined a pay-per-view. Why would they make him headline UFC 300 again when he's already fought at middleweight and he'd have to make the weight cut back down? It simply doesn't make sense. I'm so down for that fight, but it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now we're going on to the real long shots, right? Now, the one I said at the end is going to be damn near impossible. It won't happen, but we'll still talk about it. But these next two fights are long shots, real long shots. The next fight is Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira for the UFC interim heavyweight title. This fight has been rumored about. Seems like Alex might want that fight. Tom Aspinall would be open to that fight. I just don't see Alex going up though. He might want that fight. I just don't see him going up. I don't think it's a reasonable option right now. I mean, and I don't think that fight's close. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't think that fight is close at all. Tom Aspinall, I think, is the best heavyweight alive. I think he beats John Jones. I think he finishes John Jones. And I think Tom Aspinall will be the UFC heavyweight champion very, very soon. And I just think Alex is too small. I don't even think Tom Aspinall needs to bring Alex Pereira to the ground. I think he'd finish him in the first minute. Maybe throw a leg kick, feint, 1-2 down the pipe, Alex is done. So I think that would be an awful career decision for Alex Pereira. Tom Aspinall, that'd be a nice name on your resume, I guess, if you would even say that, because that fight is extremely lopsided in my opinion. I don't think the odds would be even close at all. I think Tom Aspinall would be maybe minus 500. And does the UFC want that? Maybe, promotional wise, first guy to fight for a third belt, if you know what I mean. Promotional wise, it could do well to get the casual fan base involved in the pay-per-view, maybe. But I think most UFC fans know that fight is not close at all. Not close at all. And it's just not going to happen either. That fight won't happen. I can almost guarantee you. I think Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill in Brazil is the next fight to happen for Alex. And then finally, before we get onto the impossible fight, we have Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler at 170 pounds, at 185 pounds, at 125 pounds. I don't know. This fight at this point seems like it's never going to happen. It won't headline UFC 300, but I feel like I had to mention it. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this whole fight, man? Conor says he wants to fight. Michael Chandler clearly wants to fight. I think it has to be some contract issue with McGregor, right? Dana says that this fight might happen in the fall. In the fall? I mean, come on. This fight has been teased for years at this point. We had The Ultimate Fighter, which was absolutely awful. The Ultimate Fighter is absolutely washed. It's terrible. We had that, like, what, a year ago? It's just ridiculous. This fight should have been happening. This fight should have happened a year ago. And Dana said he doesn't know when Conor is going to be back, or when Conor is going to be fully healthy. Excuse me. He's like, oh, I don't know when Conor is going to be fully healthy. That's only up to him. How do you not know when the biggest star in the UFC ever is going to be healthy and ready to fight? It's been 3 years since he broke his leg. 3 years, and you don't know when your biggest superstar is going to be fully healthy to fight? It's bogus, in my opinion. It's absolutely bogus. And I think it has to be some contract issue with Conor McGregor, because why would he fight? Why would he fight? He has so much money. He has a Lamborghini yacht. He's got everything. It's just got to be some money issues for Conor. Michael Chandler's throwing his career away. Simple as. I don't think he'd ever win a UFC title, but regardless, you know what I mean. So those are the 6 potential UFC 300 headliners that I wanted to mention. We'll go through it one more time. From most likely to least likely, we have Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya, Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev, Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev, Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira, Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. And now let's talk about the impossible fight that will never happen. I just wanted to mention it. And it is Leon Edwards versus Khabib Nurmagomedov for the welterweight title. This fight is never happening. I just wanted to mention it because it's fun. It's fun to talk about this potential fight. Khabib's done. He's never going to fight again. He's never going to fight again. Who came out with an interview saying he was training? Was it Javier Mendez? I don't even know. I didn't really pay attention to that. I made a TikTok video, maybe. Go follow the TikTok, same name as here. I'd love to see Khabib return. I really, really would. He has so much unfinished business in the UFC. 170 pounds versus Leon. I mean, that's just incredible. That's an incredible fight. But Khabib's not returning, guys. He's not returning. Get it out of your head. I think it's out of everybody's head at this point, but what a stylistic matchup as well. Similarly to Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev. Does Khabib come back after so many years and win the welterweight title against Leon, who seems like a tough stylistic matchup for him? I don't know, man. It'd be crazy. Would I pick Khabib to win? I don't even know. I really don't know. I feel like I can't pick against Khabib, right? I feel like I can't pick against Khabib if he were to come back. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that one in. It's not happening, but just imagine. Imagine, Dana's like, oh, this fight, this UFC 300 main event, you could make a documentary about it. And it's going to end up being Leon versus Bilal. Documentary? Come on. But, I mean, this would be crazy. Leon versus Khabib. Yeah. But it's done. It's not happening. I got to get it out of my mind. It won't happen. If I had to make a prediction, though, on the main event, it would be Dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight title. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Who is going to be headlining UFC 300? That's the main question. I'm excited for Saturday. Volkanovski versus Topuria. Incredible fight. Go watch my breakdown and prediction of that fight. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon. Peace out.